We meet Richard, who is successful now, and he tells us his life story, which began in 1966. He worked with his brothers and sisters in a vineyard along with his father, and they were very poor. Richard was close to his grandfather and liked to repair things but was afraid of his father Vacho. In school he met Judy and became friends with her, and they shared lunch, but were bullied by other kids. Richard asked her mom to make extra burrito for Judy, and when the kids came to bully them, Richard offered them his burrito. The kids loved the food, and Richard started selling the burritos and started making money. His food became quite popular and he started making lots of money and went to buy chocolate for Judy. The police saw him with lots of money and thought he stole this money, and Richard got arrested. After this, Richard actually became a gangster and started doing illegal stuff like robbing and all. Racism was high during that time, and all non-white people were arrested without any warning. Judy and Richard were doing illegal things to earn money, like selling drugs and robberies. One day, Judy found out she was pregnant, and she decided to lead a normal life and quit everything. She told Richard to also do so, and in one case the judge decided to let Richard go so he gets another chance in life. Richard decided to change his life and do some job and quit the gang, and years passed by. It was year 1982. They had 2 sons, and Richard was trying hard to find a job and live normally. They are poor, and Richard hasn't found a stable job, and he tries to fix the fridge, but he fails. Richard goes to many places to get a job, but is rejected for not having any experience or education. Judy tries to sell her woven clothes, and Richard tries hard to convince people to give him job. At night, Judy tells Richard they need to go to his father Vacho's house for dinner as they don't have any money. Richard isn't happy about this, but agrees, and Vacho is angry on Richard for not getting a job. Vacho used to hit Richard when he was young, and now Vacho has changed and goes to church. He tells Richard to read Bible, and his mother gives Judy a candle to light in name of God. Richard becomes angry and leaves from there and decides to work his old gang to earn some money. He meets Tony, who tells him not to join the gang back since he is a family man now. Tony now works at Lay's factory, and Richard asks him if he can get him a job there, and he asks Richard to fill an application form. He says he will see what he can do, and next day Richard goes to Lay's office and takes a form to fill. He sees the form is in English and he cannot fill it and decides to take it home and asks Judy for help. Judy decides to help him and fills false information on the form about his education, so he gets the job. Richard gets selected for interview, and when he is asked about his school principal, Richard gets caught. He says he is a good guy trying to earn money with hard work, and the person agrees to give him a job. Richard gets cleaning job at the factory, and he is very happy, and his manager Lonnie explains him his job. Richard is impressed to see how big the machines at the factory are and how fast they operate. Richard sees how fast they make chips and works hard and comes back home and is very happy. Judy is happy for him for getting a new job, and Richard sees Judy is using the candle and tries to blow it. Next, we see Richard working hard and trying to learn about the machines, but no one talks to him. Lonnie sees Richard is talking to other workers and disturbing them, and he tells Richard to do his work. Richard meets Clarence, an engineer who works there, and asks him how the machines work. Tony sees Richard and takes him away and tells him cleaners should not talk to engineers and do their own work. Tony tells everyone talks and sits according to their jobs, where plant managers sit and eat together. Then there are floor managers like Lonnie, and then come machine operators like Clarence. Clarence is the oldest and most hardworking person here, and he is an expert in machines. Everyone is trying hard to reach the next level of job, but it's very difficult to get promoted. He tells Richard belongs to the lowest job here and should never talk to Clarence, or he could get fired. Vacho isn't happy with Richard working as a floor cleaner, but Richard says at least he is earning. Richard wants to work hard and get better job, and reads about Roger, who runs Lay's and is the CEO. He is inspired by Roger and goes to Clarence and offers him his food so he can learn about machines. Richard says he likes machines from childhood and is a good learner, and Clarence likes him. They both have food together, and later Richard notices some readings are wrong in machine. He informs Clarence, who thanks him, and others are not happy of their growing friendship. Clarence tells to listen to machines and feel what is wrong with them, and says he is going to train him. Richard is happy, and Clarence decides to teach him before and after shifts, and his training begins. Richard works hard and wins Employee of the Month also, and in 1984 recession hits the economy. 8 years pass and it's 1992 and Richard is still a cleaner and there are less orders in the factory. No one is getting their salary increased and workers are unhappy, and Roger is also tensed about factory. Roger knows sales are down and Richard checks with receptionist if there are any job openings for machine operator. He comes to know there aren't any, and some colleagues have lost job also, and they are barely surviving. Richard evens work extra shift without overtime pay and sees people buy chips without any flavors also. Roger decides to record a video for his employees and Lonnie plays it for everyone in cafeteria. Roger says the company is facing hard time and this challenge can be an opportunity for them. Richard feels Roger is talking only with him and asks Richard to think like a CEO to help company. Later, while picking his kids from school bus, Richard sees his son was bullied and beaten for being Mexican. He is angry and tells him to be proud of who he is, and they go to eat corn, and his kids love it. Richard sees the chips in his company lack flavors and needs some spice to make them more fun. He comes home with many chips and different ingredients and tells Judy about his plan. He wants to make a new spicy chip, but Judy doesn't like this, but Richard convinces her. She says Vacho has found a good job for him, and she will help him if he agrees to go for interview. Richard tells about his idea to Clarence, but he says no one at top will listen to him. Richard says they have to try, otherwise they will lose their jobs, and Clarence agrees to help him. They take all discarded chips and pack them, and others also help him, and Richard sees Tony. He comes to know Tony is working again with a gang to earn money, since his mother has cancer. Richard meets Vacho, who offers him cleaning job at church, but Richard isn't happy with this. He will be doing same job here also and refuses, and Vacho isn't happy and tells him to respect him. Richard gets angry and says he was beaten his whole life, and they both argue, and Judy stops them. She tells she believes in Richard, and they leave from there and tells Richard she is going to help him. They go shopping and buy different spices and bring them home and start cooking for making dips. They try the sauce but find it very spicy and try making new sauce with different ingredients. They experiment with different flavors and one day make spicy Cheetos, and their kid loves it. Richard goes to factory and comes to know many people have lost their jobs and meets Lonnie. He tells him about his spicy chip idea, but Lonnie says he can't call Roger and new products take years to develop. It takes time and money to do so, and Lonnie refuses him, and at night Richard goes to his office. He finds a phone book and finds Roger's number and writes it down in his diary to call him. Next day, he calls Roger's office and tells his secretary he has an idea which can save the factory. The secretary believes him and transfers the call to Roger, who asks him how he can help them. Richard says he has made a sauce which can be used on any chips to make it spicy, which Mexicans love. He says his kids and friends all love this new flavor, and this can save jobs and the factory. Richard says he saw the video and thought like CEO, and Roger is impressed he saw the video. Roger asks him to send samples, and Richard prepares a sample box and does a prayer before sending it. The parcel reaches Roger, who tries the samples and finds it very spicy, but likes them a lot. He calls Richard and says he liked the chips, and he'll visit the plant in 2 weeks and discuss his ideas. Richard is very happy, and everyone at factory comes to know about this, and they are very scared. Lonnie tells Richard to clean and fix every machine properly since Roger is coming for visit. Everyone is angry on him, and they could all lose their jobs if Roger doesn't like the product and idea. At night, Judy motivates Richard and says they need to come with a sales presentation and go to library. They read many books and prepare their pitch, and even Clarence helps him, and they go shopping. Richard thanks Judy for believing in him, and Judy says she knows something who can help with the tie. Richard goes to meet Bacho, and he helps him with tie and says he is proud of Richard, and even says sorry. Richard gets emotional, and later Roger comes to factory and Lonnie give him a tour which bores him. He asks for Richard and finds him standing at back, and Richard meets him, and they start the meeting. Richard is nervous, and he says Latino in America are bored of same flavor of chips and want more spice. His new flavor will help Lay's get more market share and make it reach more homes, and Roger is impressed. He tells his team to test the new flavor, and they begin with 5,000 bags and put it on shelves to test it. No one buys the new flavor, and Richard is told they are taking off the product from the shelves. Lonnie requests them to try for 1 week, and Clarence meets Richard, who is worried and has given up. Clarence tells him to find the next step and motivates him to find solution, and at night Richard's kid tell him there are no ads for new flavor. Since no one's seen ads, they don't know what to buy, and even offer their piggy bank to buy ads. Richard likes the idea and goes to Tony for his help and asks him to help him market it in his network. Next day at factory, Richard asks everything to be together and help him since this will save their jobs. He says he believes in this product and all agree to help him distribute and load the product in trucks. Everyone works together and starts distributing the products to their family, friends, and neighborhood. The new flavor starts picking up, and Roger sees the new sales figure and is impressed by Richard. Later, Roger calls Richard and orders 5 million bags, which makes Richard happy, and all work together. The factory works at full capacity, and they pack and deliver the product, and 6 months pass, and all get their jobs back. Clarence is made plant manager at new factory, and Richard is happy to know about this. He asks Lonnie if he knows anything about his job application as machine operator, but Lonnie says no. Richard goes to clean upstairs and meets Roger, who says Richard is a visionary and he is happy he invested in his idea. Roger says he wants Richard to join them as director of marketing and offers him a new job. Richard is in tears and everyone claps for him and cheers for him, and Richard goes in his cabin. He is very happy and calls Judy and informs her about the new job, who also cries happily. Years later, Richard is now successful and helps people who are in need and lives a successful life. We see Richard made spicy flavor a billion-dollar brand for Lay's and worked for 42 years and had 3 sons.